Dreamers,
Romans,
countrymen,
lend us your ears. And a huge thank you to all of our Patreons.
Thank you to the Pit Fighters, the First Swords, and all of the Bright Stars, Truth and Courage. Hello and welcome today to the Brothers Gwyn review of Dreaming the Eagle by Manda Scott. My favourite historical fiction book of all time. Your number one book of the year of 2022. This is a book that we've been desperate to talk more and more about, and we're successfully integrating it into each and every video.
Yeah, you know what? I'd say we are.
Yeah, very successfully. But yeah, let's get down to business and let's talk about why this is one of our favourite books of all time.
Kick it off, Ed.
So this book is essentially, it's why I read. You know, this is just art. I love the way that Manda Scott evokes just countless emotions through her writing. And she really makes you feel every single ounce of the journey that the characters go through. The cast is small, but the scope is absolutely epic, and it has the magnanimity of Lord of the Rings, and it has the intimacy of Robin Hobb's The Farseer. And Dreaming the Eagle is the historical fiction book to read.
Yeah, it is absolutely incredible, and probably the two things that I mention the most that kind of correlate between my favourite reads that people who watch the channel pretty often will probably be bored of me mentioning: character-driven books and books that have immersion. And this has both things in abundance. Yes, this is a character-driven book. It is incredible with the immersive factor to it. And as you just said, Ed, I love how it's got that kind of epic scope to it that feels almost fantastical in a sense. Papa Gwyn, when he recommended this series to us, he said that if he would recommend a historical fiction series to fantasy readers, then this would be it. Because even though it is historical fiction, it's rooted in history, and Manda Scott kind of fills in the gaps. Yeah. It feels fantastical with how huge the scale is, and kind of the machinations, the cogs turning in the background between huge events that we know are looming in the distance. But at the same time, we have a small cast. It's intimate. It's individual, personal stories from our core cast of characters, and there's not too many, but they have a huge influence on how the story unfolds. And it is because of them that we are so engaged in the story, and it is because of them that the impacts of the epic nature that kind of evolves as the story continues, it's because of them that is so powerful. Yeah, well said, Will. I mean, in this book here we have the most important, inspiring queen to have ever lived in Boudica. Words.
Yeah, it's true words though. True words were never spoken. And Boudica, this is kind of a coming of age story. She wants to be a dreamer, which is a really important druidic role in Celtic society. But she has not had her own dreaming yet, and she is particularly adept at warriorhood and leadership. And then you have her half-brother, Ban, who is particularly adept at being a dreamer, but he wants to be a warrior. So you have that juxtaposition of what the characters actually want and what they are in themselves as people as well. But yeah, you follow these siblings as they face the plight of their culture, as you know, the ever-encroaching Roman horde are descending upon their land, and it is just a breathtaking ride. It is part coming of age, part historical epic, and 100% genius storytelling. I love absolutely every single word in this book. I love the way that Manda Scott writes animals. That's probably my favourite thing that I will talk about in each and every one of these books. The four books all feel so different to each other. I mean, from what you've read, I'm sure you feel the same. They all feel like they are very different, units, but they all lend themselves into the way that Manda Scott writes. But the thing that links them all is the amazing animals. I just love the animals. You've got these amazing and loyal hounds. You've got horses, and Manda Scott writes about all animals amazingly, and they are so important to the Celtic cultures and peoples in ways that I will talk about later on in this review. Character-driven, tick. Immersive, tick. Coming of age, tick. Animal companions, tick. What more could you ask for? Well, we'll probably say some other incredible things as this review unfolds, but just carrying on from what you kind of touched upon there, this is a Bildungsroman, a coming of age story. A huge part of it is anyway. And I love how a lot of authors, it is very hard, and I completely understand why, having characters who are younger, because that's a huge demographic. It is really important, I think, in many cases for you to be attached to the characters. There's this extra level when you know what they've gone through as children and how they've aged into adulthood. And I think that it's really powerful knowing characters as children, but on the flip side, children in
when you're in their head and you're following them as kind of the main characters, they can be absolutely infuriating. Either because they feel too clever and it doesn't feel authentic because, well, they're children, they've got a lot to learn, or they're too immature and they're too infuriating, they're too naive.
And they're too much like children.
Exactly. So yeah, I know that is really hard what we're asking for authors to do, but I think Manda Scott hits a great balance, because here they feel like children, they feel naive and innocent, they make many a mistake, and we see their vices and virtues on full display as children, and then they become kind of subtler explored as they get older, because children, they're much more prone to kind of showing their true nature, aren't they? But on the flip side, it's not infuriating, because as I said, they feel like children, but they also feel like they're learning from their experiences. And I love kind of that balance, that we really feel engaged. We can relate to them, because we love characters who are flawed on this channel. And I imagine most readers do, because it's hard to relate to people who are just perfect. And so when you've got people who we see their flaws, we see their vices as well as their virtues, we love them despite all the mistakes that they're making. Because we love them because of the mistakes they're making, actually. And that is at the core of this story. It's character driven. The animals, that nature is a character with and unto itself. Manda Scott does a brilliant job of having that immersion play into all these other aspects, and that is another brilliant element of this story, that every kind of aspect of the stories, they link together, from the prose, the characters, the plot, the world building. It is exceptional on every level.
I think I love how this is a coming of age, and you see the world through these fresh children's eyes, and it feels so wonderful to be a part of. It feels like, every single part of their lives, it is breathtaking. It means so much to them, even just going to a marketplace, and it's those things that people love to read in fantasy as well, isn't it? This slice of life, the characters absolutely adoring the world that they live in, and that is so true here in the characters of Bad and Breaker. And what I also love is how everyone grows older. It covers quite a long span of time, this series especially, but the books cover quite a few years, and you see how much development there is in just, how many pages this is, 700, 600, 700 pages. There is so much development, and people, they all have their own agendas. There's no good or bad, only survival. And when you come to see all of the characters are grey, suddenly Manda Scott will sweep the carpet from underneath your feet and show you the true horrors of what the Romans do, and she just makes you feel every single thing that the characters feel. And there is so much tension, there is heartbreak and heartache, there are moments where you are so just exhilarated and adrenaline filled and happy, but then other times where you are utterly crestfallen, and you are just here for the mesmerizing journey.
Yeah, I think in books, often you'll find a writer who's brilliant at, say, kind of character development, a writer who's brilliant at action, someone who's brilliant at kind of the plot twist. Manda Scott can put her hand to anything, really, because you have incredibly tense scenes in board games, discussions, action, all sorts.
I never thought I would find Celtic chess so fun to read.
Exactly, and it's how it's such a multifaceted book that was so many different elements with it, because it, as I've said before, immersion, it must be boring people so much. But it feels so immersive, because people don't just feel kind of conflict or tension when they're about to draw a sword, do they? They feel it in all kind of the impact that it has on their own life, with the people around them. And it's character driven, believe it or not. And I love how Manda Scott kind of has that at the core throughout the book, because I believe that you need kind of that attachment to characters to really experience the rest of the story to its full. And that leads on to, Ed said the very bold words of when I started reading Dreaming the Eagle, that Manda Scott is the kind of historical fiction counterpart to Robin Hobb. And they are bold words. I love the works of Robin Hobb.
The Queen of Fantasy and the Queen of Story.
I really understand why Ed said that, because Manda Scott, she doesn't have purple prose, just like Robin Hobb doesn't have that either, but they are character driven, and they use their prose, their genius as writers, to strengthen every element of storytelling. We see kind of how the prose, we've mentioned the storytelling and the world building, the setting already, how we kind of experience this culture and the political machinations, the tensions between different demographics and groups. But at the same time, we have an alteration to prose, like when we enter action, where it's a bit more stripped back. We feel the adrenaline, we feel the blood pumping action as we're on that very page. Your own hearts are pumping as we are worried about these characters. And we really kind of the prose mirrors kind of the mental state of the characters at the time, part of how they're aging, and it feels really rewarding in that sense, that whilst much of the change is due to the trials and tribulations and tragedies that these characters that we love so much are put through, it's also because they're getting older. Their experiences are kind of funneling into how they become as they get older, and their experiences shape them so much, and Manda Scott really kind of displays that in the prose.
I think Manda Scott, her prose lends itself so much to this style of storytelling. It's as if she was made to write an all epic sweeping historical fiction with intimate moments. It is, I mean, her action can sometimes be dialogue, sometimes it can be epic set pieces, sometimes it can be a skirmish, and sometimes it can just be, a dream. And it is visceral and exciting and exhilarating to read. Her battles are absolutely amazing. It's got this kind of epic scope to it, where you'll have a character describing what's happening as if it were chess pieces on a board, and then you will zoom into another character and it will be boots from the ground, mud is in your face, you are in the thick of the action, and it is like incredible to read, and it just makes you feel so much. And then you're being zoomed out and you fear for the characters, what's happening for them, and that tension is carried through into all aspects of the novel. There is tension through the dialogue, through what the characters are saying and going through, and what they're thinking, and what their hands are saying, and what their eyes are saying, completely different things. And they are the little details that make me absolutely love Dreaming the Eagle even more than I already loved it. I think the battle of the Midway at the end is just one of the best battles I've ever read of all time. The Romans are written just so well, I think. And it is just a breathtaking story of characters surviving, going against all odds, and it's something that fantasy fans, historical fiction fans, and just normal genre fiction fans will get behind, because there is so much to love here.
What you're touching upon there, kind of the character interactions and their relations with each other, the way that they are such a key part of the story, I think is one of the many reasons that this is a book, it feels like it transcends genre, really. Sense, what I mean by that is that I would recommend this to fans of any genre. Fantasy, historical fiction, of course, they're probably the two most common. But crime,
if you like
romance,
tragedy,
it's got definitely. It's got everything in it, but it really speaks kind of to the human spirit. It's one of those rare books that there's only a few I can think of that when I started reading, within a few pages, I just know.
Masterpiece. You knew as if the pages
this is going
to
be a book that I'm going to respect, I'm going to be in awe of, and I'm going to absolutely love, and
all at the same
sob
time.
at the same time. I think I felt that with We Are the Dead by Mike Shackle. I felt it at Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. I felt it with Dreaming the Eagle. And so if I could recommend like 3 books to anyone, then this would definitely be in
Dreaming
those 3.
the Eagle, Dreaming the Eagle, Dreaming the Eagle. I think one of my favourite aspects of this book is the Fantastical Dreaming, which is essentially where it, as a coming of age rite of passage, where this person is now moving into adulthood, and they go off into the wild and they abscond from food and water for several days, and they essentially have hallucinations in what's kind of a long night way. And they have this dreaming, and they dream, something prophetic about their culture, about what's happening, or whether it be a story that's happened before or something in their future. And then they will dream an animal, and that animal will they will then embody a sense of that animal throughout their lives, whether they have the mark of the bear, of the wren, of the eagle, of the hound or the bull. And it is so important to these characters, and I love how the mythology of the Celtic peoples, of their society and culture, is so real and visceral in Manda Scott's writing, and it feels as if it's a part of her rather than just something that she's merely writing about. And I think that's something that I really absolutely love. You can tell that Manda Scott has such a feel for the importance of this dreaming and what it would have been to Celtic peoples, and it is so amazing to read about, and you can't help but be sucked in all the time.
I completely agree, and we are talking about Dreaming the Eagle today because not only do we absolutely adore it, could you guess? But also there is a relong going on right now on the Brothers Gwyn. So please do join the Discord. We're on book 3 now, but you can definitely join in. We're doing 1 a month, so it'll finish in June. But yeah, you could read 2 a month and you'll be caught up with us. Or if you're feeling extra ambitious, you could read all 4 next month and still be caught up with us. But even if you just read the book 1 by the time we've finished, the people who have read book one. They won't give spoilers for what happens next. And yeah, we'll be really happy to talk to you over there. It's been amazing.
We would love that.
I mean, every book, it'll have people who love it, people who they enjoy it, and people who don't enjoy it as much. But this is one of those that I think it's almost been a completely unanimous positive experience of people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where a lot of people have absolutely adored it and a lot of people have enjoyed it. And yeah, it's felt like everyone at least respects it. Definitely. And they're really happy that they did pick it up and give it a go. And yeah, so we're really relieved that we've set up this read along and a book that we love so much that other people are enjoying it as well, because we want to spread the word, the love for Dreaming the Eagle.
Yeah, thank you so much for watching this review. Hopefully we will be doing like a spoiler chat of the series once we have reviewed all 4 books in the series. But keep your eyes peeled in a few weeks for the next book, the review of the next book coming up. But yeah, guys, go jump on Manda Scott's writing. It is genius. It is so much fun to read. It is also not fun to read because it is very tragic and will rip your heart out. But that's what we like as
heartwarming and heartbreaking.
Historical fiction fans. We like to have our hearts, just spilled in front of us.
Yeah, we like some kind of emotional torment every now and then.
Yeah, trauma in the form of books. I'll drink.
That's why we're here. But everyone, thank you so much for watching Truth and Courage from the Brothers Gwyn.
Truth and Courage, the Brothers Gwyn.